Today I'm going over the most difficult hero for every single role in Overwatch 2. This was all filmed live at twitch.tv/PyroSquidOW, so if you ever want to check out this content live, go there. Without further ado, enjoy the video. Tank. Even though this character is fairly unbalanced right now, I think Ball is the hardest tank in the game. Look, this character does a lot right now and has some pretty broken perks and just does a lot of stupid damage. This is a character that I think requires a lot of time and effort to execute well. It's hard to avoid the fact that I think right now he's been given a lot of tools that essentially stop him from needing to be as, skilled as he once was. But just understanding the way the grapple works, it's got such a learning curve compared to any other character, and his way of impacting the fight is a lot less obvious in comparison to the other tanks. Sure, this character is annoying, and so you can put him up to, it's, the character's easy, it's a stupidly easy character, but I generally think it's probably the hardest tank. Maybe Doomfist instead. I think Doomfist and Ball kind of compete at the exact same level here. I just think Doom is marginally weaker right now. What makes Doom difficult is just the fact that all of his eggs are in the empowered punch basket, and you just have to be good at knowing when to engage and hit your punch. And you don't really have any way of saving yourself if you mess up, whereas a lot of other tanks are far less punishing in comparison to Doomfist. So I'd say Doom is probably one of those, even though he can also feel like he's not that difficult. It's tough to not int and blow up as Doom. And I'm about to give one other honorable mention. It's Winston. Winston is a really tough tank. The only part that isn't tough about him is mechanics, apart from primal juggling. I honestly, maybe Winston's harder than Doom and Ball. It's just really hard to tell. I think it's dependent on the patch on which tank becomes harder to play, because typically if one's really overtuned or their counter is really weak, they feel easier because they're stronger. But on a tactical level, Winston is quite difficult because he doesn't have a burst kill. He's very much about knowing when to engage and timing your engage well, not taking too much damage before, playing around your bubble. Juggling is tough, and understand how to play him in uncomfortable maps and uncomfortable circumstances is very difficult. So that would give Winston that edge. So I'd say, yeah, Winston, Ball, and Doom are kind of the three hardest tanks. I can't really figure out which one out of them is the hardest. I think you could argue Winston, you could argue Doom, you could argue Ball. You could go both ways. Let me know which one you think is the hardest. DPS. I think DPS is quite obvious, and again, regardless of patch and stuff, I think Tracer is probably the hardest DPS. If not the hardest, one of the hardest. She is simple, right? Simple, but very difficult to execute. She requires you to do these simple things extremely well. She is highly mechanical, requiring you to actually, be able to track your targets while also moving and then also hitting the blink melee, which I just missed there on a bot. Cooldown management, the perks have sort of stopped her from actually needing to manage her cooldowns. But blink management is genuinely a skill that takes a bit of time to get used to, and knowing how to move, you're weak, you're easy to kill. More than one person shoots at you, you're probably dead. So you've got to know how to use cover, you've got to know how to blink, move properly, how to jiggle your movement, trigger discipline, don't jump off the map. She has a lot going for her in the difficulty portion, right? And pulse bomb's a pretty tough ult to farm value out of. I just say she's been a bit strong for a very long time, and the perks have enabled her to be a little more accessible. But the idea is, even if, sure, she's more accessible like this, the execution of Tracer is always going to be tough, no matter what. She is just like that, and she requires you to understand the game a lot more than some other DPSs might. It's just simple things done really, really well, and that's kind of what Tracer is. Other one, Genji. Genji is tough. I would love to say Genji isn't difficult. He's one of those characters that you'll die to and you'll complain about it, but then when you when you're fighting Genji, you feel like you can't win, but then when you're fighting someone as Genji, you feel like you can't win. So that to me just shows that he's a pretty well designed character, to be honest. Shurikens are not easy to land. They really are not. They can be really tough. Managing your cooldown engage right, you want to get your dash reset, you don't want to burn all your cooldowns, you want to actually use dash to engage, but you also want to get the damage from it and kill to get the reset. And he doesn't really have any perks that just give him stuff, so I think Genji's tough. Blade's a tough ult. If it's nano, it's quite easy, especially with the speed boost. and if you hit a Zarya bubble, but Genji is difficult. Like, he just is. I think he's one of those characters that you'll pick up and try, and he's really cool and he's really fun, but you will understand the frustration sometimes of playing Genji. He has the potential to basically 1v1 anyone, but at the same time, each of those 1v1s can feel ridiculously difficult, but once you're really good at Genji, it becomes a lot easier, right? So I definitely think he's one of the toughest. Third, that's quite difficult. I will be honest, man, I think Freya's tough, but I think she's really weak right now, and that's why. Echo's difficult, but I don't think she's nearly as difficult as I once thought. Widow's super tough because you just have to hit shots. All right, let's just do it. Because I've done Tracer Genji, look, give me a better third one. I've already said Tracer Genji, so I want to throw in this honorable mention of Widowmaker. Definition of Feast or Famine. Brother, you just have to hit your shot, right? And it's difficult. It is difficult. This game's not the easiest game to aim in. Yeah, they increase projectile sizes and stuff like that, right? But she is difficult. Look, I just missed a bot. I wasn't looking at the bot, but I just missed a bot. She's a hard character. She's very easy to dive, very easy to kill. She's low health, but she's a massively long cooldown. It's not even that long, actually. But still, and it's her only form of escape pool, but it's also her form of not engage, but set up, if she wants to set up on a good angle. I think Widow is very difficult, just because so much is in the idea of just landing the one shot. And then if you play her into a single dive character, she becomes super difficult, and you have to understand your angles better, you have to know where to position more. There's a lot of nuance to the character that I think goes unnoticed, right? Even though I hate this character. So yeah, it's fair enough. Support. I think the easiest answer is Lucio. I think Lucio's the clear hardest, and then the next ones are a bit of a blurred line, but I think Lucio is just the hardest support. I can barely move on this guy at all, but there's people that just make it look so easy. First off, let's just go like literally piece by piece. This is a hard projectile to hit. Like, to do consistent damage with, it's very difficult. Okay, you have to manage between your songs, which isn't too tough, but has a bit of a flaw to go over. Right, know when to speed and when to heal, when to speed in, out, heal your team, you know, move around the map. Amp is sort of like obvious, but still, like, you can waste an amp. You can amp people when they don't need to be amped. That's tough. Boop is a very easy cooldown just to use off cooldown as a form of doing damage, but the actual creativity with booping people off of spots and into teammates and into your shots is crazy. Like, you can boop people up and then track them down with your shot and kill them. There's a lot there. Like, Lucio's tough. And then he has the wall ride, which you can, like dash off of walls by just like touching the jump, or you can hold it to slide on the wall, and you could even go backwards on it, and then you can combine them to do a slide, dash, off, hop. But yeah, like, there's just so much stuff. So yeah, I Lucio's just one of the hardest. I don't think beat's necessarily a hard ult, but there is a lot of ways to mess up a beat. Ooh. I need to pick two other ones. I think, okay, Ana, and I put Kiri, but I don't know if Kiri's the hardest. Okay, it's definitely not Bap. Bap is just shoot heal. That's not that difficult. Definitely not Yari. Definitely not Juno. Maybe Kiriko. Definitely not Life Weaver. Not Mercy. Even though the movement can be tough, it doesn't affect the actual, like, whatever. Definitely not Moira. Wu Young, not really at all. His cooldowns are too easy. Zen, possibly, but again, simple enough that I would maybe say not. So, honorable mentions, I think Ana is also pretty difficult. I think she's had some pretty overtuned perks since perks came out, but she's mechanically pretty difficult, even though the shots are fairly large. You know when to heal, when to shoot is difficult enough. Landing sleep is not easy, and tracking your cooldown, tracking the enemy's cooldowns, knowing what your threats are, whether or not to hold sleep, go for an aggressive sleep, go for a team nade, an anti-nade, how to set it up, and be in a safe position. You know, there's a lot of stuff with Ana, a lot of choices, a lot of moving parts. Ana can be quite difficult, but not as difficult as Lucio, and I think she used to be harder. I think low-key these perks have been making her so much simpler. Like, I just don't think she needs the speed boost on Nano, and I think Headhunter is very inconsistently broken. Like, that move speed's crazy. Like, Butter Bounce isn't bad. I think it's more consistent, but then Headhunter comes out of nowhere and you just lose all your health. So, I don't know. Weird character. But, fundamentally, very difficult, I'd say. And then we'll give it to Kiriko. Look, I don't love Kiriko, but kunais are not the easiest thing to hit. Now, her cooldowns are all annoying. They're super, super annoying. They come out of nowhere. But so many Kirikos will just waste their cooldowns. Knowing actually who to TP to and when to TP is a skill. And knowing when to Suzu is also a skill. But it's just very easy to waste those cooldowns. And it feels like the Kiriko is doing something like good. But they aren't. Do you know what I mean? That's the problem with Kiriko. She feels like she's bullshitting you out of everything, but in reality she's like wasting the Suzu. She's wasting her TP. She's not supporting her team. She's taking a fight she shouldn't, things like that. And I think trying to manage that stuff is quite difficult. So I would argue Kiriko is a fairly difficult character. And yeah, that's it. That's my that's my list. So if we go back over this, I think the tank was really difficult to figure out which one's the hardest. Maybe I just go say Winston, Tracer, Lucio. Those are your difficult of each role. Honorable mentions: Doom, Ball, Widow, Genji, Ana, Kiri. Hope you're able to gain something from this. That's it. Peace and love.